All right, I'll say it's close enough. Okay, November 15th, 6 p.m. Call the meeting to order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Scott. Here. Councilmember Silliman.
Here.
Councilmember Pinello.
Here.
Councilmember Lane.
Here.
Councilmember Thompson is reported absent. Councilmember Carpenter. Here. Councilmember Beckwith.
Present.
Councilmember Michaels.
Here. If we're gonna rise for the salute to the flag, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a moment of silence and reflection for all the families that will be traveling next week and pray for their safety. Thank you. Under presentations, I spoke with Judge Burns and Judge Knickerbocker this morning and thought they have some pretty important and pretty challenging events in front of them, and I think we should all hear about it and hopefully get a better understanding and throw our support behind is to help address some of the opioid problems that are addressing our community, and they had more details of why we received some of this grant, and why it's such a priority, and how they're stepping in front of it and being way ahead of it. So, if your honors would come up and
Well, thank you.
present.
Judge Knickerbocker has a handout that he's gonna provide. Mayor, you've already seen this. These, warn everybody, these are draft documents, okay? So you may see some typos or some formatting issues. And they may change somewhat, before we get started, but this is primarily the document we were using for this. We're here to talk about Hope Court, which is the heroin overdose prevention effort court. We all know that opioid addiction and overdose death has been on the rise. There's a federal grant that the court system applied for, that Cortland County was designated as one of the counties most in need because of our opioid issues here in Cortland County. So Judge Knickerbocker and I, over the past several months, have been putting together an opioid court to have here in our community. And the goal is to save lives. It is a harm reduction court. It's not an abstinence court. The goal is to get people who are involved in the criminal justice system, who have addiction issues, immediate help, immediate connection with treatment. It's a warm handoff. They come in for arraignment. If they decide they want to participate, we have a caseworker here who's going to interview them and immediately get them started on treatment. It's a 90 to 120-day program, which is short term. Our goal, as I keep saying, is to save lives and get them started. Because if they get started in treatment, hopefully they will continue. We can get them the help they need. It saves their lives. It helps our community because they stop committing crimes, right? So there are a lot of participants in this with the community, the treatment agencies, the police departments, your support. We are willing to give this a try. We hope that it works, but the critical part is having people who want to participate. So we're hoping with the assistance of the defense bar, Keith Dayton has been very supportive of this. And the district attorney, we've had these discussions with his office. And I believe that everyone is willing to try this to see if it can help. It started in Buffalo and it has been successful. And that's why they're encouraging this statewide. Statistics have shown that most people become much more successful in treatment if they have frequent contact with the court, particularly with the judge. And it seems to keep people on track and keep them in. And we all know, what's it take 30 days for most of us to get over an old habit? Well, let alone a habit you've had for 10 or 15 or 20 years that's taken over your entire life. So if we can get them started, we believe that we can give them long-term hope. I don't know, Judge Knickerbocker, if you want to talk about the process more?
Well, the concept is Judge Burns indicated, that is to get them immediately into some type of treatment, whether it's outpatient or just counseling. But it's a situation where you have to strike when the iron's hot. Sometimes they'll come in and they're about as low as they can get, and they're in real bad shape. And when you make comments to them about you need some help, they may acknowledge it at that point in time. And unfortunately, in the past, there wasn't a lot we could do with them if they acknowledged it. We would try to get them to Cody, and that's worked on some occasions. But in this instance, we're hoping that if we can get them to acknowledge they have a problem, at least get them that first contact, so that then they will have somewhere to look to, even if they don't go inpatient, or even if they don't succeed the first time. Because it's difficult to beat an addiction you've had for years and years, and you're with the same people all the time, and it just becomes just a terrible habit and no way to break it. But if you can get them involved, at least know there's some alternative to their lifestyle and what they're doing, even if it's not successful immediately, we're hoping that long-term that they'll come back again. And at least they'll have someone they feel they can trust, know where they can go to for a longer term benefit. And as Judge Burns said, if you look at, somebody that I was just talking to was asking about the drug problem, Cortland, and not just drugs, but substance abuse also. Any type of substance, can be alcohol, whatever. If you look at the percentage of crime that is somehow related to that, whether it's selling it, possessing, undertaking activities when you're high on, breaking in places, stealing to get money for the drugs, it's a huge percentage of our caseload. And if you can intercede on a few of those cases, it'll have a mushroom effect out on the rest of the community. And that's what we're hoping for, and we appreciate whatever support you can give us. And we're not here asking for money or anything.
Not today.
Right.
We're hoping, and the way Judge Burns is done this, is to try to make it so that there won't be any additional funding needed from the locale. Looking to get the federal funding, state funding, and then we're going to set up our calendars so that we deal with these cases during our regular court calendar. So we'll have a district attorney here, we'll have a public defender here. They won't have to make additional trips to the courtroom. It won't be a strain on their resources. And we're hoping we're successful, even if we can save one life. I think it's worth the effort.
Sure. I think I've heard you both say hope 8 times, so it's appropriately named. And I think it is huge. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are dealing with homeless when they're going out with the police, and recognizing that and being able to have that. Because again, I forget this number, but how many interactions you have to have with somebody before they sometimes get that part. And
I think they say like at least 15.
yeah, 15 is the number I had. So if there are 15 times and they're in front of you guys, and I think you both are great representations. Be stirred enough and forceful enough, but have the heart to be able to handle it. So I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
I commend you for this initiative. I really do. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I've stayed here for 19 years now, and I fought multiple for approaching the council in an effort to try to turn this table around for these individuals. That's certainly means a lot.
Thank you. And thank you for your time, and thank you for publicly getting this out there and for your support.
Yes.
I mean, having the mayor and the council say that they support this program is very important. So we really appreciate all of you.
Yes, I'm seeing my head nodding for sure. I'm on board. It certainly fits in with the housing issues we're trying to deal with, and the homelessness, and the drug addiction that fits right in. This is a great dovetail to all that. So hopefully all these efforts will work together.
Thank you.
Very good.
If any of you individually ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to us.
All right, thank you, Judge.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody sign for privilege of the floor? Anybody there? Thank you very much. Oh, you did, Mr. Dexter, come on. Just state your name and. Yeah. You need a mic. Yeah, I don't know if you need it.
My name is Mike Dexter, and I am chairman of the Landscape and Design Commission, better known as the Tree Commission. I've had many concerns from a lot of people in the city over the dying of many trees on city streets. The trees that are dying are ash trees. They have been affected by the emerald ash borer several years ago in connection with my commission, Jim Maloney from National Grid, Sean Murphy from Soil and Water. We went around and tagged all of the ash trees that we knew that had been planted in the city, not by my commission, but back in the 80s. It was the choice of a tree. Most of them seem to be planted between 85 and 92, 93. The emerald ash borer, if nobody knows, has been coming east from Midwest over the last several years. It's a very slow process in killing the trees. We knew it was going to be here and it was going to hit eventually. We were one of the last communities, one of the last counties to see this emerald ash borer. We have a list approximately that we tagged back approximately 10 years ago of the emerald ash borer trees in the city, so we could at least let the people know there was a tag on their tree that the ash trees had been planted back in the 80s were going to die eventually. There's not much you can do to stop it other than there is an insecticide that can be used. It's very expensive. You have to use it over a period of time. It wasn't done in the city. So consequently, the ash trees in the city, like I said, we planted about, the city planted about 110 of them in the late 80s. There are also several areas, and I've had two concerns from people that live on Harvard Street, because it seems that when the city reconstructed streets several years ago, Harvard Street, Pendleton Street, and Broadway, there are several ash trees on those streets that were not in our inventory. So today I just had somebody call me to have me come down and look at the tree. It's on Harvard Street. I don't have to go look at the tree. I've already seen the trees on Harvard Street. They are basically dead, and they will be obviously deteriorating more. I have discussed it with the mayor, and Nick was at one of our meetings to discuss who would be responsible to take down these approximately probably 150 trees in the city. Most of them are pretty good sized trees after being in the ground for 30 years. I don't know whether the DPW will be able to handle that program, but I'm here tonight just to let people know that the trees that they see are dying on the streets, and there are many of them, are ash trees, and there wasn't much that could be done about it. This little bug that came, it gets underneath the bark, and you can't tell what it's doing until the tree basically is dying or dead. So I just want to let you know, and I know we discussed it with the mayor at one of our meetings, to see who is going to be responsible to take these trees down. He did ask me for a list. I do have a list that I will be getting to you. I don't know whether Nick's got the list or not through the DPW. But there are a lot of trees out there that eventually will be falling apart and will become a safety issue on the streets. So I guess I'm leaving it up to the administration and the DPW to decide what's going to happen to these trees and who will be removing them. I really don't feel that it's the homeowner's responsibility, since the city planted them in the city's right away back in the 80s. So I don't know whose responsibility is going to be falling on to remove these trees. We can't plant enough trees to take care of those, although there was something that come across the internet recently, and I think Alan or somebody maybe sent it to us, where there is a grant to replace ash trees. You have to prove that it is, I guess, Nick, you sent it out maybe, or you copied.
From last week from the grant funding.
Yeah, there's money out there to be, but you have to prove that the ash trees have been affected. I think we're looking at that right now to try to get a grant so we can maybe get trees to replace those trees once they're out of the system. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dexter, and thank you for all your work on the landscape committee. That's, doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay. Mayor's report. So, we had our budget meetings. Thank you for all working hard on that and getting that done. I think, we went through it pretty thoroughly, and I think it's a good budget that's, will be tight to keep track of all year. Friday will be that release from the Moody's report, will be a public release on that, and they'll be discussing, you know, the elevation of our long-term debt, which is going to drop our rating, as well as our weak tax base growth. So those will be probably the key issues that they're going to focus on there. So that'll be out this week as well. That our audits continue on. We're getting closer. Hopefully we get that resolved so we have a better for 2021. Portico was this weekend. I think it was overall successful. I think it looked like from what the chief gave me as a report that we were about half of the arrests that we had last time. Recognized it was down in the city, so there wasn't as much going on. It was somewhat quieter. I did put some lavatories out and some trash cans out, which I was able, some of the bar owners and some people were emptying those trash cans during the night. And then there was a good cleanup crew, thanks to the college students and myself and Eric Mulvihill from the IDA BBC assisted in going around and picking up, and we got a lot of the trash that was in great shape by Sunday, probably 2 o'clock was in decent shape. But although it was really pretty good in the morning, I think strategically placing a few more cans in some areas that I noticed would really help. And they were chained down thanks to DPW, and the outhouses as well were chained down. I think I don't have any public urination charges here, which is good. So that may be helped towards that. There's a grand total of 34 students and 4 non-student students on the arrests over the weekend. There was there was 2 littering on Saturday for littering for the student and 1 non-student. So that was pretty good compared to what usually happens. Open container was less than 20, which was good. Noise complaints were relatively down too. I think the rain suppressed some of that as well. We did have our new cameras hooked up for some of this event too, and testing those, and we're still ongoing with that part. But overall, and then the code, you know, they had their hands full, and they were very aggressive, as well as the police addressing the signage. The signage started earlier in the week with some discussion with locals to try to get that to mitigate. There were still quite a few out there, and some rolled over into, you know, some were resistant to take down, but the code office went out there very diligently to do that. They went out during the Saturday nights. I think I saw them out. I think Deputy Mayor was out as well, and they were in and out of the bars, made sure there wasn't overcrowding and everybody was safe there. So I think that's a good idea to do, and they broke up several house parties, I think, as well. I think that, but overall, it went well and was probably not as successful for the downtown businesses as they would like, but overall, everybody was kept safe and everybody did a phenomenal job, with the exception of our 1 vehicle got in an accident, one of our police vehicles, but nothing serious, but just responding to something. But other than that, everything else went well, and I appreciate everybody's proactiveness from the code office to the police department on dealing with the issues. I think everything went well because of that proactiveness, and I think that will be continued and should be successful in the future. I think next year it's in Ithaca. So that's what I have on the mayor's report. Anybody have any questions? All right, we'll start with one. Scott.
Ward 1, we had a call about a fallen tree, which city council is helping me look into. The speeding has come down. I had a report from one of our complainers just a month ago. Not that I mean, it's a complaint, not that they're complaining, but bringing it to our attention. Their road had slowed down, they thought. I was very happy to hear that. We have lots and lots of questions about garbage, trying to respond to everyone as quickly as they get a hold of me. I thought very timely that we had the information on the Hope Court today. My ward right on the end of my street had a leaner today. You don't know what a leaner is? It's when somebody gets in drugs so bad, they stand about like that. And they can stand there and stand there and stand there. I went by him, I had to run home to the home shop and grab a few things for a job I was working on. And saw this gentleman across from a church standing there. I thought to myself, if he's there when I go back, I'm gonna ask him if he's okay from the car and, call the police. By the time I had gotten back, the police were already there. It was less than 10 minutes and had helped him along his way, which was nice. I will tell you, if you've never seen a leaner, the position at which a person can physically stand at for that amount of time, absolutely petrified, ought to petrify some of us. It is unbelievable the way they look. And I hope that, the Hope Court has a huge impact. I'm all about it. I think it's very timely and hopefully we can make an impact here in the city with it. Other than that, Ward 1's going well.
Thank you. Two.
I was out of town this weekend. But I asked to be in touch with codes and with my constituents. And thanks to CPD and codes, Cortica was not too crazy. I think the weather did help. I'm sorry that the Dragons lost. We did still have some crude / crass banners. And it's a shame because it seems so unsportsmanlike. Some of the t-shirts and slogans. And people in general seem to have the attitude, well, what are you going to do? They're college kids. But I think SUNY Cortland kids can rise above that. I think that college is all about becoming adults and learning how to be part of a greater community. And that if the expectations are higher, they'll meet them. I think that we have some really classy students and then it's kind of a shame sometimes that the ones who get all the press are the ones that don't reflect as nicely on SUNY Cortland. There was an issue with garbage left on the curb on Maple Ave. Codes is working to resolve that. I would like for people to understand that when you call in about something, if you wait for 2 weeks before you call it in, there's a process. And so just because you tell me that it's been there for 2 weeks, it doesn't mean that codes can rush in and accuse the people of having garbage on their sidewalk for 2 weeks. So there's a process. So after, what is it, like 24 hours, it needs to be picked up. So don't wait so long. If you have an issue with trash on your block, don't wait so long to report it. And do understand that we try to get compliance. So the first thing codes is going to do is talk to them and try to get them to get rid of their trash. And then they may be cited. And then we make contact with another company to come pick up the trash. So it could take a little while. I have another constituent, actually a manager of a building, who claims that the DPW or the city, he said the city broke some sidewalk while working on pipes. Nick is looking into that, and I appreciate that on his behalf. And I met with Cheryl Doolittle to talk about aspects of the budget, and I really appreciated her spending her time with me. She was great. The mayor and the deputy mayor set that up for me. And she was very welcoming. She's in our finance department and she was encouraging me to come back and ask more questions anytime, which I will be doing. So that's it from the second ward.
Okay, thank you. No,
Third ward is doing pretty well. Couple of codes issues and I'm working with Roy to resolve those issues. Otherwise, we're good.
that's fine.
Fourth ward, quiet. I'd like to thank the police department for putting the radar cart back up by the Red Dragon. It has definitely helped. I had a constituent send me some information regarding the Medicare Advantage, or should we say disadvantage operations. It was a very interesting article. I had a constituent ask about a tree that is on campus that was depositing a great number of leaves on her property. And so I went and looked at it and basically said there's not much we can do. I've been asked about Carpenter's Way. So if we can get to that during discussion time.
Sure.
And I'd like to thank Code, Roy and AJ for taking care of a piece of property that's outside of Fourth Ward. But it's been a problem for a very, very long time and they have taken care of it.
Thank you very much. Ward 5 not here, so Bill, you're up.
Yep. Heard one complaint at least with our new paved walkway down there that the geese are all over it. So there's a couple hundred geese down there now, migrating, and there's somebody complaining about the feces down there, so. That's about it. Everybody else likes it, but other than the geese. We did have our meeting with the trash this week. We did discuss that and item number. Yep. So we'll discuss that about the bins and when they're gonna be distributed and all that. Everything else is quiet. The sixth.
All right. Mr. Beckwith?
Quiet.
Mr. Michael?
Quiet. Just one cold issue. I'll have to catch up with Roy when I was in City Hall this afternoon, but I'll try to catch up with him after the meeting to pass this along. I did do another ride along with PD Saturday night. Started at roughly 8 p.m. and hung in there till about 3 p.m. It's usually 3 a.m. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Still trying to catch up. No, it wasn't a eventful night. Much quiet than in past years. I do want to say, I think two factors kind of came into play, weather being one. We all started out to be about 60, then by late evening, it was down to 30, no 30. And also the fact that Suey Cortland didn't win their game, so they didn't really have much to celebrate. But still was a large crowd out. They were very, very polite. The ones that I've caught up with, quiet. We did have a few issues with PD, but the police presence was certainly known throughout the city, and I think that was a big deterrent as well, trying to keep some things quiet. As Mr. Carpenter had mentioned, we did meet with the owner of Blue Moose this week, discuss the rollout of the new containers first of the year, and the mayor will certainly kind of give you an update on all of this. We do have some things coming out that you want to pay attention to regarding scheduling and when these containers are going to be released to the public. So pay close attention upcoming weeks before we roll this program out first of the year. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, good. Just wanted to, I just forgot I had this other report here for the overtime. I think you wanted to see that overtime report for the police. I think it's just over 14,000 for the weekend. So that's why we gotta get the college involved in doing that. And I'm meeting with some other mayors in Syracuse on Thursday to discuss some of these issues, to try to get some of the senior help cover some of those issues. It just happened to fall on a double time holiday on Friday. So just recognizing that that's part of it. All right, so we'll move to approval of the minutes for November 1st. Mr. Scott, Carpenter, all those in favor? Carried. Agenda item number 1, set public hearing on proposed local law to reserve property tax levy authority established in general municipal law 3-C.
Resolved that pursuant to sections 3C5 of the general municipal law and section 20 of the municipal home rule law of the state of New York, a public hearing, proposed local law to authorize the override of a tax levy limit for fiscal year 2023, if deemed necessary, shall be held on the 6th day of December 2022 at 6 p.m. at City Hall, 25 Court Street, Portland, New York, and that the city clerk shall publish notice of such hearing in the official newspaper of the city of Portland.
So this is regarding tax cap. So this is in case, just in case you end up with an audit different from last year, or the budget goes over. If we do not, what happens if we do go over the tax cap? Is that we would have to put that money in basically put that money away. The difference of the amount that we run over it, keep that perpetually open, which goes against what you need to have when you're short funded. So this is just a safety precaution that I think necessary to do. That's the intent. Any questions?
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan, Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter,
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 2, file proposed 2023 budget and set public hearing.
Resolved that the common council does hereby file the proposed 2023 city budget with the city clerk. And be it further resolved that on the 6th day of December 2022 at 6 p.m. prior to its scheduled regular meeting, the common council shall hold a public hearing on the proposed city budget, and that the city clerk shall publish notice of such hearing in the official newspaper of the city of Portland.
Ms. Lane, Mr. Scott. Any questions? So this is the budget we went over and we did adopt it. It's all in your, as attachments to your agenda. Okay, move.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 3, sub public hearing on proposed local law to amend chapter 241 of the city code relative to solid waste and collection thereof.
Resolved that pursuant to section 20 of the municipal home rule law of the state of New York, a public hearing on said proposed local law to amend chapter 241 of the city code relative to solid waste and the collection thereof shall be held on the 6th day of December 2022 at 6 p.m. at City Hall, 25 Court Street, Portland, New York, and that the city clerk shall publish notice of such hearing in the official newspaper of the city of Portland.
Get a motion for this. Mr. Carpenter, Mr. Michaels. So this, we'll just talk about the trash a little bit here. So we met with Blue Moose on Monday and I tried to reach out to the trash committee kind of last minute. Thank you for being able to come, the ones that could. Mr. Michaels was there, Mr. Carpenter, and so we went through the details and tried to figure out some of the difficulties that are in front of us on doing this. So we're all saying it's quiet in your ward, maybe hold your breath for this. But I think, you know, change is always difficult, as we all know, right? So change is very difficult. I think this is gonna be a big change for some people from having the containers, the size of containers, the size of recycling bins. You know, that was some of the questions I had, you know, the recycling bin really need to be that big. Like Mr. Dover said, you know, put your cardboard, instead of putting it out, blowing it around, they'll be able to put it in pieces, bigger pieces to be able to do that. So, so all those are going to be issues that are going to do that. The plan is to the 3rd week and 4th week of December to get the totes out distributed to everybody, to all the residences, and then be ready to start January 1st. the difficulty is gonna be that last trash week of trying not to put them using them and using the other, so. But we'll have to get through that, we'll do some educational pieces, they're gonna, Debbie's gonna do something on the website. We're gonna do probably a, little postcard to send out, some informational pieces and take some time to do that. You know, some of the recycling, the glass will go in with your trash, which will be great, instead of having to have that separated. So there'll be recycling directions on top of the lid. On those, the totes will be black with trash and blue for the recycling, similar to what we have now, but they're big, you know, so there's the rollout type. So I think we'll all have to just work together to make sure that communication of that literature that we have, when we get to, who get the call, is forwarded back to them, and in that event that, did order some smaller totes so that in the event that they were not manageable, that people have that option. We're encouraging people to try it and be surprised, to be that it wouldn't be as cumbersome and wouldn't be as difficult and get used to it. Because it does give them that option when they have an extra company to fill it up. It doesn't have to be full to be able to do it. But some of the other people that are more frail and can't handle it, we have options for that.
So are people going to pick up the totes or will they be delivered, home delivery?
There'll be home delivery, they'll be delivered to every home.
And what about people who are currently opted out of the city program?
Well, if they do not want them, they will let us know. I mean, then we'll remove them, we'll go back. And
Oh,
go back
okay,
and get
so everybody gets one.
And everybody gets
And then
one. If they don't want it,
people
if they opt out or they don't want to use it. Everybody got one. So we've talked about that for a while, to give people options and say, which one you want to pick. And we don't really have a good communication way right now. We're working on doing that. We started doing the water meter replacement program. That's working very well. So people click on and they go onto a calendar. So now we'll be able to capture their number, their email, so we can text people, group text people. So ultimately we'll get to that. But we're starting to work towards to be able to have that more open-minded communication. That's the most difficult part. What is the easiest way? How many people,
It is.
read the newspaper? How many people read, the media voice like Voice and or all the other options, Facebook or whatever. Try to do everything, but ultimately it'd be nice to directly reach to them.
Right. Have you considered a couple of radio spots as well?
Yeah, we're gonna try to educate as best we can. So yeah, like I'll have an interview tomorrow. We'll talk about it again. We're gonna keep trying to get as much as we can out there. So, but any ideas and ultimately, as representative for your constituency, please talk to them if you can. But it's gonna, Homer's, I think on their 6th or 7th year, I think they said, and they're adjusted now, but everybody at first had the same situation. I think Marathon went to it. There was, what did he say, 400 people there, and he said there was a few. But I tell you, it's great, very confident in the trash hauler. Not that the one we have now isn't good, but I'm very confident in this one. They're really, here's my cell phone, whatever you need. And I think we're gonna have good luck with it. We've got to give it a chance. So
Yeah.
that 10% that didn't like it, it's gonna be the ones that's gonna be yelling the loudest. Right? So, but we'll move that forward. So, is there anything else that we could take away from that?
No,
Okay. All right, so I guess we'll move it, please.
We have the motion second. Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Agenda item number 4, reappoint Kathy Wilcox to the Board of Assessment Review.
Resolved that Kathy Wilcox is hereby reappointed to the City of Cortland Board of Assessment Review for a term beginning November 15, 2022, and to expire September 30th, 2027.
I get a motion. Mr. Beckwith and Ms. Silman. Yeah, I think it's great to have somebody with experience coming back, because this is going to be a year where the reassessments are going to happen. So I think having her experience in real estate and having her experience on the board before was a good choice.
Needs to be done. It's been quite a while.
Yes, so it'll be good.
I forget how long it's been, but it's
Yep.
unfortunately longer than it should have been.
Okay, call the question.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 5, authorize agreement to supersede previously approved option agreement to evaluate feasibility study on solar energy production facility at 136 South Pendleton Street.
Resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized to enter into an agreement on behalf of the city of Portland with Davis Hill Development LLC for a period of 6 months in exchange for an extension fee in the amount of $250 to allow Davis Hill LLC to continue its solar feasibility process.
Can I get a motion? Ms. Stillman, Mr. Carpenter. The, again, remember we dealt with this, I think it was in February, where they had a 6-month review they're still putting the paperwork in to do the North Park, solar.
Started before that.
Yeah, started before that.
Yeah.
We renewed it for 6 months, and we'll do it 6 months again. So we just keep calling them back till they get to it, and if they don't get that option, then we'll get somebody else to have that option.
I'd say this would be the last time.
Well, they are making progress, so even though it might seem quiet to you, they have been making progress and trying to work on doing that. We're able to help negotiate some other things like the bus charger for the school. So it's, so there's some progress, but still working. on it. Yeah, but we will push them a little harder next time.
I'm taking along for progress.
All right. All in motion.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Then item number 6, authorize city fire department to hire 3, note that correction of 3 firefighters in contemplation of retirement.
Resolved that the common council grants authority to the fire chief to hire 3 additional firefighters above authorized staffing levels and commence their training to lessen the impact of the anticipated staffing shortage resulting from the stated intent of 2 firefighters to retire in the first half of 2023.
Last one.
Mr. Scott, Mr. Carpenter. Just want to clarify, I don't know if you could talk to this, Deputy Chief here, I'm sorry. So it says, we had the correction of the titles that I fixed from 2 to 3. And then on the bottom, and then it says hire 3 additional firefighters, then it says with intent of 2 firefighters at the bottom. I just wanted clarification.
Yeah.
Should we all say 3? Just all say 3.
Okay.
So
Yes.
somebody probably came in after with the retirement papers after we started writing resolutions.
It's 3 earlier.
Yeah, it is early, but then I just want
But
to,
it
so
is-
if we could just note,
Take a motion to,
yeah, so if we can just note that those motions recognize that verbiage on the last sentence should read intent of 3 firefighters to retire in the first half of 2023. Correct. And the title of the resolution is 3 firefighters. So can I get a motion real quick to amend that? Either Carpenter and Silman, all those in favor for the amendment? Okay. So get that amended, we'll call the motion.
I also want to know if these 3 don't take retirement for some reason, they don't get 6.
Understood.
Yeah, I think one was kind of wavering.
Yeah, the papers are turned in, yes. Yeah, and we're having the same thing with it, I believe the police department as well. So again, this is a proactive approach to try to get them filled rather than have to fill that backward with overtime. You get those positions in there, by the time they're out, then you're already started the training process. So I appreciate the proactive approach that the board is taking here.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello.
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 7, authorize agreement for electronic parking system.
Resolved that the city of Portland Common Council authorizes the mayor to enter into an agreement with Passport Parking Enforcement United Public Safety Incorporated to transition city of Portland parking to an electronic platform for a total amount of $61,655, which covers equipment, leasing, data storage, and warranty for a 3-year period.
Motion, Mr. Carpenter. Ms. Lane. So, this is for the handhelds. So basically the handheld can go to scan a registration on a windshield. And it'll tell them when that car is there, and then they can go back and say how long that car was there. So it does GIS locations, GPS, so that it actually recognizes where they're at specifically. So those are all helpful for doing parking tickets and of the like. There's appeal process that's in that software. We can set up all of our areas of parking, so we can do our long-term parking and all that to make it more convenient for people to park and be able to control our parking system a lot better. The revenues will outweigh this by far because we'll be able to control that a little bit better. And we'll come back with a proposal. We've been working on a design of how our parking system would look like and talk about that and maybe, what the fee schedule would look like, long-term parking, handicap parking, where it would be, how that's going to be for all the specific lots. We're currently working on that. We'll bring that back to the council as a separate part of this. With this, we can start answering their questions so we can get this off as close as we can to January 1, so we can be able to control our parking permits a little bit better because they're being oversold, undersold, and parking is kind of a mess, to say the least, downtown. So it helps with all of our parking areas, but specifically downtown. Any questions? Okay, call a motion, please.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Then item number 8, accept grant funds for the purchase of ballistic vests.
Resolved that the common council agrees to accept these grant funds and place them in the Portland City Police Department budget line for uniform and safety to help offset the cost of purchasing bulletproof vests for officers.
So move.
Now, Mr. Scott. Again, this is our second one we've got with this, so that it's all good stuff for sure. So keep trying to do what we can to keep it easier. Any questions?
We might need it when we put them garbage cans out.
There's an extra information. All right, call a motion.
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith,
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
I think we have to turn your mic on. Agenda item number 9, authorize city police department to hire 2 police officers in the contemplation of retirement.
Resolved that the common council grants authority to the chief of police to hire 2 additional police officers above authorized staffing levels and commence their training to lessen the impact of the anticipated staffing shortage resulting from the stated intent of 2 senior officers to retire in the first half of 2023.
Ms. Sullivan, Mr. Carpenter. You see how they got the number, right? Deputy chief, just keeping that, and between the fire and the police going as much as they can.
Yeah, but we got more than.
Yeah, okay,
I don't think either one of them typed this up, so I wouldn't be pointing fingers either one. of them.
Actually, they did.
Chief.
Actually, they did. Actually, they do it.
Okay.
All right, so, everybody understand it's the same intent, again, to get ahead of it, and they particularly take even longer, so, this will be a great way to go, great way to go. Unfortunately, we hate to see people retire, but sometimes it has to happen. Right?
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lane,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Agenda item number 10, authorize wastewater department equipment to be declared surplus.
Resolved that the common council authorizes the Fairbanks Model 41-3132 platform scale currently in the possession of the wastewater department to be declared as surplus and authorizes the superintendent of wastewater to donate said scale to Seven Valley Health Coalition for use in the Seven Valleys Health Coalition's food rescue program.
Motion, Ms. Lane. Mr. Michael. Just, I mean, we've all seen pictures of it, it's not worth a lot, but we have an estimated value of this, that we should probably put in the minutes. We should have that.
I saw one of a similar vintage being offered used online for about $250.
$250, so we'll just make sure the minutes reflect that we estimate that about $250, so everybody recognizes what we're giving away, if that's understood. I have no idea what it was ever used for.
Before my time.
coat rack, maybe. But it's, yeah, it's pretty, so, okay. All right, with that recognized, can we move it?
Councilmember Scott,
Aye.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Aye.
Councilmember Pinello,
Aye.
Councilmember Lanes,
Aye.
Councilmember Carpenter,
Aye.
Councilmember Beckwith.
Aye.
Councilmember Michaels.
Aye.
Discussion items, so retiree health insurance. So we're gonna go back to a conversation about that retiree health insurance again. So as we proposed before, we were looking to, the last we to discuss about this was to go out, look for, get an RFP out, try to get somebody, a separate consultant to come in and try to analyze. With not much luck. Nobody responded to the RFP, so then we went back and I independently called different people again with very little luck. And then in the process of one more option to do that, the consortium, as of 1st of November, released that they are now offering the exact same plan. And I say the exact same plan. So they're offering Aetna. Well, they have two Aetna plans. One was a deductible, which none of our insurance, none of our over 65 insurees are using the deductible plan. So I don't see a reason to even discuss that one. But there were other one is the exact same plan that was proposed from earlier, the one we proposed or discussed previously. I had met with the consortium, had a call in with them this week with payroll with Gwen, and Alderman Michaels was there as well. And just to try to go through line by line again with the whole plan, and it's exactly the same plan that was proposed before. Better than what's currently in the other one. And we all had received that email from the consortium earlier saying it wasn't necessarily that, but then, so now they have come around to understand that, again, all those insurances are not the same. You know, the Medicare Advantage plans are not all the same. There are some that are muddy and wouldn't go near them. But again, so I really don't, not looking for action necessarily now, but I want to have that honest discussion that, so the problem that I see with the consortium is, as we discussed, opt in and opt out, right? So we talked about doing an opt out program. Well, the consortium is doing it so that if we decide that we wanted to utilize that plan, it's all in. It's all in. I mean, we would say that this is a requirement, and it's all in. I've spoken with one of the retirees who's been taken on his own, and appreciate that initiative to get educated and try to educate all that. He had spoken with them as well and said why the change, and I don't know that we got a clear answer why they changed their format of thinking, but other than they recognize that all the other municipalities are looking to doing something too. And they provided me with a spreadsheet, which I could share part of it. So it's got some stuff that we probably shouldn't share, but it's $1.5 million of savings is what they flat out would be. And everybody would maintain the same. So I guess, so a couple things, and I get the fear and I get the concern, I get all that. So a couple things we could say, you know, and in discussing with that one retiree. So I still have the other option of the other company, which I have a meeting with soon next week. And so that would be an option to say, all right, we can try it. So, I mean, it'd be great to try a couple people and do it, but I don't know if the program would be there after that, if you could go back at it. So how many bites of the apple? That's a question I don't know. And it's not a fear factor thing. It's just a fact. But so if you did put them out there to say, let's try a few, and if it went well, then everybody else, it certainly would be better for the city to have everybody jump in, because it would be a benefit. That 1.5 million is what we need for, you know, our shortfalls of our insurance is one of our biggest expenses. So that's a huge one. And then we have the option of saying, all right, you know what, maybe we don't, maybe make it more enticing and say, rather than them pay, because it's about $300 a month for the premium, right? Which has always been the same. They pay, let's say 10%, so they're in at 10% or 20%, their price tag would be, you know, 30%, you know, $30 a month. So, you know, what we could say is we can, to make it more beneficial, more enticing, say we'll pay for that difference for that year. it'll still save us considerable amount of money, or get everybody on board to make it maybe more palatable. It's just a discussion item. Or we go back to the other option of saying, let's seek some volunteers to be able to have that happen and then see how it goes. And we could do it, so we can try it a year, and then in the end of that year, if we get, pick a number, 40%, 30%, 20%. Then we cancel it, or make it optional at that point. And then we could pull out of the consortium at that point to do that. I mean, it's well within our rights, but I would never want to say, this is it. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily agree with that consortium thought process to say, this is all we're doing, this is how we're doing it, this is it. Even though it's more, but because of that fear that everybody has to do that, talk about needing a bulletproof vest, I don't necessarily.
I'm not saying nothing.
I know, but I think it's an important factor. We do have a responsibility to the taxpayers, to the rest of the taxpayers to be fiduciary responsible on those actions as well. So I'm just looking for maybe a little bit of dialogue back to say, a little bit of maybe banter, if you will, to discuss whether
I think we
those
should
options.
set another, I don't know if we really need another meeting, but I'd certainly like to hear from these folks now again, since the new evidence or new, whatever you want to say, it's come out to the public now. Maybe they changed their way, maybe they're still stuck on their, I think we owe them that before we make a final decision.
And I don't think we should keep saying, well, if we do this, we'll save 1.5 million and that would help us out, this is a touchy subject, and I'm not willing to take anything away from anybody who doesn't want.
But you're saving them money. And you're not taking anything away. That's the point. You are not taking anything away, and that's the whole point of, well, these are like, there's, they keep there's certain statements that can't be made and can't be done, or, in the insurance industry, you can't say that something's not covered and it's not covered. There is not that. I mean, the only thing you could talk about would be the service of the agency, right? Would be the only part that you could say. So you might be able to say, and I'm not promoting this, but Aetna might not be as well versed or customer friendly as Blue Cross might be. Maybe they're not as responsive, but the coverage is the coverage, and that doesn't go. But also to recognize that that was one of the criteria that consortium brought up, was the reason they did pick them is because of their high rating. It had to be within that 85+ rating, which they were. So I think that is discounted with that. But again, I go back to, the sole responsibility, and that's what makes it so tough. I would not propose anything that's taken away from anybody.
What's their timeline? We have a timeline on this now, or?
It would have, I have to show commitment. I have to just tell the consortium that by, like this week, that we have interest. That's it. We don't have to commit. We have interest, and then we have, obviously, to January to February. I think February is the drop dead.
So just from my own grasp of the situation as I understand, we either go with Aetna through the consortium, or we go with Aetna on our own.
Well, let me
And
clarify that one second,
Okay.
because I'm sorry to get it more complicated.
no, but you're.
So we
you're
technically,
Another insurance company as well.
well, it'd be through the broker. Let's call it Haley Bryan,
Okay.
right? So we go through the Haley Bryan, and so let me clarify a couple. So Haley Bryan, we negotiated a deal that we could opt in or opt out, choose your word. And that still stands.
Okay,
With the consortium,
it's. all
Aetna, it's all in.
Right,
So my question back to consortium, which I'm waiting for, which is part of reason we're not asking for any answers here, because
Right.
it's still up. As I said to them, why will they do it with me or with Haley Fryer? Why will they let Haley Fryer whom let us just do a few, or opt in or opt out, rather than doing the whole group? And why won't they let them? So that's a question they're going to ask
okay,
to try to find out if we can get that back.
Would it be possible to put the same question to our retirees and say, here's where it stands? Would you rather have a certain number of people opt in and test the waters and then report back to the group? Or would you rather have us pay your premium for the first year and everybody tried out? What if we put that to the retirees?
That's maybe a good point. I mean, I think that's a good option to be able to address that. We can probably communicate that relatively easy.
I think from what I've heard from retirees is that it's an optional plan, like you said, and that rather than go with the consortium, having us all in or all out, you'd rather have the benefit of Taylortown and Coon and have that option. You might have 10 people that jump. I know some firemen are interested, and let them go in to see, test the waters, and hey, this is great. I think you're better off doing that and giving them, you know, the less controversy as to the stress of that going out. I think if you go like that, that's the best way to do it. You know what I'm saying? And have an option.
If it wasn't great, would those people be able to?
Yes,
back up?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I would, absolutely. I think that's an absolute, because I don't think anybody, you know, the fear of it, you know, they could always go back to the next year of open enrollment, come right back in, they have that right.
Now, a lot of people don't understand that in 2013, the PBA contract says that everybody through 2013 on have to go into that plan. So prior to that hires, they don't have. So that's a situation. Is where the PBA contract currently stands is 2013 on, PBA police officer will go into that plan.
But again, we have that right to say, because it is equal to or better than, we could say it anyway. So we, you know, but the hopes would be to not make them go into that plan without being equal to or better than. So I think they're better off
Right.
having that negotiated than the 2013. I don't know that that would be
Right.
necessarily a good thing, because we could get something less than equivalent or less than covered.
The savings is important. But I think we all want to convey that our main concern is their well-being. And health, and that they feel they have a secure plan in place that is as good or better, which is what you were saying, Mayor.
Absolutely.
So,
No, nobody's arguing that.
Right.
So I'm just trying to have a reasonable discussion.
yeah,
And cheaper isn't always better. Again, I've heard that 150 times. It's just got another letter yesterday. So I get it. And that's not the case here, but it's hard because of all the issues, insurance is the biggest problem. So I wanted to have that open conversation and certainly open myself up to any communication at any time from any retiree for any reason to discuss it further. And I think going back to, if I hear anything that from everybody is maybe going back and giving them those two options, just zoom it in and say, what do you think of either one of these? We give them say, look, I'll pay for it all. And so you don't have any cost out of your pocket at all. You can see it. You know, reluctant to do that at the beginning because then they really think it's even more of a scam. But with that said, so I think we'll address that way. Everybody good? Anybody else have anything?
Yeah.
All right, so if you hear anything, please let me know and we'll feed it backwards and continue on, but I'll keep you posted on that. Hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have something more of that. Another thing I just wanted to bring up was, we did get a $500,000 grant award today. It was noted for sewer and water. Remember, we applied for that for the sewer and water for the residents and the businesses. So that could come in particularly handy right now for sure. So that will be a press release, I'm sure. And Ms. Lane wants to talk about Carpenter Lane. AJ, you here? You maybe just give an update on, I know he's looking into the legality of Carpenter's Way. Is that the right, that's the Carpenter?
Yeah.
Years ago, it took me a while to find the source of this, but there was a right of way granted to the city between two properties on Lincoln Ave. For purposes of ingress and egress, and the language is teams and carriages and all these things that obviously we don't need anymore. And I think that as property changed hands, it kind of slipped through the cracks. But ultimately, it's property that the city arguably is responsible for, and that it's not a law. There are other weird little plots of land around the city that we need to deal with reliability purposes and otherwise. So that's the plan. I think that in this instance, it would be difficult to, put that piece of land up for auction. I don't think that it meets those requirements. But it's my understanding that some of those two property owners might be interested in taking it over. For just, managing it from that respect, so the city doesn't have a liability issue, so they don't have a liability issue. And that's where we're at with that, so we just gotta make sure that we cross our Ts and dot our Is, so we can make that title transfer legal. But it's just something that I think has been overlooked for years and years. It comes up from time to time when something unfortunately happens, or someone notices something that's a disrepair, but that's the case right now. But I think that that's a plan to remove it from the city's ownership, so to speak.
Yeah, so we would we'll come back with a resolution to resolve those properties. And there's also in Ward 1, there's an issue that just came reared its head that we're working on as well.
I wonder if that is-
Yeah, and there's a parcel of land behind Wheeler and
Yep.
Evergreen. And I think you have a constituent with a tree that fell down from
Yeah.
a
I
house.
was gonna wait till we get a little farther to bring that one up.
Yeah, so then we're trying to figure out the best way to deal with that too, because I assume there was some kind of right of way or something there.
It appears that it was for utilities purposes, that it was never utilized for that purpose, and then again, just kind of, people lost track of it. Properties changed hands, there's this little strip of land between houses on Evergreen and Wheeler. It's really no man's land, just kind of like Carpenter Lane, which is not fair to those property owners on either situation, so. That's the plan, we just want to make sure that if we're gonna take it off the city books, we do it the right way.
So we'll give it to those people and raise their assessment.
That's right.
Yeah.
As long as it's on one deed, I don't want to.
I'm out, about that.
You're combining that parcel, you're gonna split it equally. Deed, is it?
Yeah, I would make the argument that it would be a consolidation. I don't think it gives rise to that level. It's too small a parcel, which is why we put an option off the first.
For Carpenter Lane.
But yes, both.
But any of them, I think
A
it
lot
should
like
end up being
Lexington.
just one tax number, not two.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the reason I say that is because what you just said about. Not that we're-
Correct.
I don't want the people think I'm after their tax money.
Understood.
You're talking pennies, but you'll get more money off of a complete tax number than you will if you have a little eighth of an acre that.
It'll end up getting lost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's
that's all
that's
I'm
the
getting at.
approach, and I'm happy to facilitate for property owners that, are facing this issue. If they want to.
We would have to help do that, sure to get those parcels on.
So you'll be getting help of the. two
Yep, I already
properties.
talked to Councilman Scott. I'm not sure we're gonna get through tomorrow, but I'm gonna go meet with them and kind of walk through that process that we're talking about right now. Because I know that this is an issue that he's.
On Carpenter's Lane, I spoke with both
Yes.
property owners on both sides, and they both agreed to it verbally. So
Yep.
I think they're up to speed, as other than they're kind of just thinking it could get done quickly.
I think unfortunately we'll have to have not unfortunately, but there will be a public hearing just to put it all out there and
Sure.
go through the right process, but parcels of this size, it's better off on property owners and the city.
No different than that $250 scale, we'll have to assess the value, recognize it, vote for it.
The goal of the property owners is to shut it down as a public egress because it's old slate sidewalk. It's gone every which way.
You're talking about Carter.
Right.
Right.
Who plows it, who deals with it, the city's kind of forgotten about it, and so they want control so we can close it off and not have to be a hazard.
The approach would be the same for all, tiny parcels like this.
Yeah.
Throughout the city of Warren.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of small stuff that can be cleaned up.
And it's easy enough to do as long as we do it. Right.
Very good.
Anybody have anything else?
Just one quick thing, are we all set for Christmas decoration?
Yeah.
Coming up.
Tree lighting is the, Andrea here, let's see. Is it the second or?
That's why I asked, I know we were gonna have another meeting before that.
Yeah, so that's, December 2nd is the tree lighting and, there's something else before that, I don't think we did. Yeah, so December 2nd at, 6:30? Yes, thank you. So December 2nd at 6:30, thank you, Mr. Beckwith, for bringing that up. So it would be the tree lighting ceremony at Courthouse Park
Water bill.
in the fountain. Okay. grow a tree between now and then. Getting known.
Bring a big one in on a truck like they do.
That's what we're doing.
That's what
That's- I don't know that it's that big. Yeah. We have one, Jose out there wants to make it 60, what is it, 61 feet? Yeah, 1 foot smaller than the area, but I don't think that's happening, because I have to build the structure to hold it up. All right, anybody else have anything else they want to bring up? Okay, motion for adjournment, Ms. Selman, Mr. Scott, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I think.